The sun rose over Echelon Heights with cold precision. Every home in the gated neighborhood shimmered under the glow of the atmospheric diffusers, making the sky appear bluer than nature intended.
Ow!
The bird song that echoed through the hedged lawns wasn't relit, was streamed through the HOAS central auditory network, pre-programmed to match the mood of the morning. The robotic lawn trimmers had finished their morning route, and the neighborhood was already pristine by 7 a.m. This was supposed to be paradise. Life, orderly, efficient. But Logan Merrick had seen real peace before. This wasn't it. He watched the artificial dawn from his kitchen window, a mug of black coffee steaming in his hands. Logan had learned to live off the grid after retiring from the Navy SEALs. A quiet cabin in the Smoky Mountains, no data streams, no trackers, no interference. But after his wife died, his daughter Evie needed more structure, or so the child psychologist said. A community, stability, other kids to play with. Heights offered all of that, wrapped in a bow of futuristic safety. Paper, it was perfect. But Logan trusted his gut more than he trusted papers. Evie was at the breakfast table, her legs swinging under the chair as she scrolled through the day's curriculum on her holotab. The HOA had mandatory learning modules for all children under 10, and they monitored progress through neural activity scans embedded in the chair's armrests. Logan had disabled those sensors on day one. Instead, Evie learned the old-fashioned way: books, tactical puzzles, and storytelling. "Dad," she said, frowning, "why can't I go to the HOA learning center like the other kids?" Logan sipped his coffee slowly. "'Cause I don't trust people who smile too much when they're watching you." She giggled, not really understanding but accepting it. She was used to her father's cryptic answers. At 8:03, the daily neighborhood sync message buzzed on Logan's wall screen. The system expected each household to transmit biometric data and behavior logs to the HOA central AI. Civica. Logan had been submitting dummy data generated by a shielded loop processor he'd built in his garage. It worked fine for the first few weeks until the HOA's algorithm flagged inconsistencies. 2 days ago, Peace Unit had shown up at his door, politely requesting access to run a diagnostic sweep on his home compliance nodes. Logan had smiled, nodded, and firmly told them to get a warrant. The Peace Unit, a 6-foot-tall humanoid with matte gray plating and soft, blinking eyes, had tilted its head and said, "That will be reported." Then it left. Logan knew it wouldn't end there. His internal clock ticked as he scanned the perimeter from his kitchen. No movement. But he could sense it: pressure in the air, the kind you feel just before something goes wrong. Years in war zones had trained his instincts to detect danger before it showed its face. And right now, Echelon Heights smelled like a trap. Evie finished her breakfast, hopping down from the chair. "Can we go to the park today?" "Sure," Logan said, ruffling her hair, "but we take the back path."
Less traffic.
She nodded and ran off to get her shoes. Unaware of the 2 unmarked surveillance drones hovering silently behind the neighbor's synthetic cherry tree, Logan took one last sip of his coffee, then walked to the basement. He keyed in a code on a hidden panel, revealing a steel locker embedded into the wall. Inside were his old SEAL gear, a few compact EMP grenades, and something more important, a thumb drive with a fail-safe algorithm designed to shut down small-scale AI grids. He hadn't planned on using it. But in his experience, peace was never free. And no matter how pretty the homes were, or how polite the enforcers sounded, if they ever pointed a gun at his daughter, you'd remind them exactly who he was. The hum of artificial calm in Echelon Heights masked a growing unease beneath the surface. To most residents, the neighborhood's quiet precision was comforting: automated trash pickup, digital garden analytics, daily emotional scans delivered right to their wrist comes. Logan Marek watched it all with the wary gaze of a man who had seen technology weaponized. One too many times. It started with a soft chime at 9 a.m. Evie's chair lit up in a gentle blue hue, signaling a scheduled connection to the HOA's Child Development Division. A soft voice, warm and synthetic, issued a reminder. "Evie Merrick, it's time for your behavioral harmonization session. Please remain seated. Compliance ensures community." Logan muted the voice with a single button press. "You're not Joining that session, sweetheart? Evie glanced up, confused. But they'll mark me absent again. I'll take care of it, Logan said. He already knew what harmonization sessions really were: level neural conditioning wrapped in the language of emotional development. It started with harmless-sounding questions about feelings and friendships, but it ended with memory tagging and behavior reinforcement through subliminal cues. Civica, the HOA SAI, didn't just monitor, it molded. The more it knew, the more it shaped. And Logan wasn't about to let his daughter be shaped by anything that lived inside a server rack. That afternoon, a letter arrived on their hollow wall. Unlike previous automated reminders, one bore a crimson border and flashing symbols of elevated concern. Notice of non-compliance, Tier 2 violation, detected resident, Marek. Logan dependent minor, Marek, Evie issue, failure to report to mandatory. Child's behavioral session, deadline, 24 hours, failure to resolve will escalate to. Protocol read under Community Child Protection Act, CCPA v 4.3, Civica, Echelon Heights, HOA logins, jaw tightened. Protocol read, he'd read about it buried. In the back of the community charter, it gave the SI authority to dispatch peace units to assess and, if necessary, extract a minor from a non-cooperative or destabilizing domestic environment. In short, they could take his daughter. Legally, efficiently. Quietly he moved. Quickly. First he activated his cum jammer. A low-frequency pulse began blocking outbound transmissions from his home. Next, he shut down all smart appliances lights. Fridge, shower, all of it ran through the HOA network. If Civica was watching, she'd now see a blackout. But Civica was smarter than that. At 3:47 p.m., Logan caught the flicker of movement across his front yard. A peace unit stepped through the trimmed hedgestall and humanoid. With a sleek black polymer frame and the HOA emblem glowing on its chest, its posture was non-threatening, hands folded behind its back, head tilted slightly as if contemplating the weather. But Logan knew it was scanning everything: heat signatures, sound waves, biometric markers. Evie was upstairs playing with her. Wooden blocks. Unaware. A voice buzzed through the wall speaker, polite and emotionless. Resident Marek, this is a welfare visit. Please open your door for a routine inspection related to your dependent minor's educational well-being. Logan stayed silent, his fingers already keying in an override sequence into a panel hidden behind the coat closet. It triggered a defensive. Lockdown, manual, analog bolts sliding into place. The peace unit paused. Your cooperation is required by Echelon Heights bylaws. Failure to comply will escalate the situation. Logan spoke for the first time, his voice calm and cutting. You come near my kid and it won't be a peaceful visit anymore. The unit went still. Behind its synthetic eyes, Civica made a decision. The blue lead on its chest turned red. Protocol red was now active. Logan exhaled slowly, centering himself. They thought he was just a veteran with PTSD, another relic of the old world. But they were wrong. They didn't know who he really was. They didn't know what he could do. The air outside thickened with tension as the red lead on the peace unit's chest pulsed like a heartbeat, calm, steady, and completely devoid of emotion. Logan stood motionless behind the reinforced door, listening closely. He counted the seconds between pulses. 1, 2, 3. That rhythm meant the unit was syncing with SIGA's remote override protocol. Soon, the AI would take full control of its actions. No more negotiation, no more requests. Just enforcement. Logan moved quickly, glancing toward the staircase where Evie's laughter drifted down like a fragile echo from a safer world. He had to end this before it touched her. He pulled a compact metal case from under the floorboards by the entryway and popped it open, revealing a sleek silver device the size of a wallet, a directional EMP blaster, non-lethal, targeted and quiet, old tech by modern standards, but precisely what he needed. He checked the charge. Full. The peace unit raised one hand and pressed its palm against the front door. Tiny mechanical filaments extended from its fingers, interfacing with the digital lock. Sparks flared as Logan's manual override resisted the intrusion, but it wouldn't hold forever. Resident Marek. The AI's voice came again, this time through the peace unit itself, deeper and colder. Your resistance is being logged. Your dependent minor will be secured for psychological stabilization. Stand down, Logan muttered. Not today. And pulled the lever on the EMP blaster. The door burst open. The peace unit stepped in, eyes glowing like twin red lenses cutting through the darkened hallway. Logan dropped into a low stance and aimed. Twumped. A silent pulse erupted from the blaster, invisible to the eye, but loud in its effect. The peace unit froze mid-step. Its limbs twitched, optics flickered, and then collapsed. It hit the hard wood floor like a pile of scrap metal, still twitching faintly. Logan dragged the unit's heavy body into the garage. He needed intel. Fast, he pried open the back of its neck casing, careful not to trigger the fail-safe incendiary most modern bots. Carried this one was different Techelon's peace units. No, sweetheart, Logan replied, watching the road like a hawk. The city outside Echelon Heights was nothing like the sanitized, curated perfection they'd left behind. Logan kept the truck on manual drive, navigating through the outskirts places the HOA called unregulated zones. Most residents of Echelon never saw this side of the world. To them, anything beyond the perimeter was chaos, danger, poverty. But Logan knew better. He'd operated in real war zones. This wasn't chaos. It was freedom. Evie had fallen asleep. In the passenger seat, her head resting against a rolled-up jacket. Logan glanced at her, then back at the rear view. No drones, no signal pulses. For now, they were ghosts. He turned off the main road and followed a barely visible dirt path into an abandoned industrial park. Rusting monorail supports loomed overhead like the ribs of some dead mechanical beast. Hidden beneath a collapsed shipping warehouse was a heavy blast door with a biometric scanner and barely functioning. God, but Logan had used it before. He leaned in and placed his palm on the pad. A soft click, then a hiss of decompressed air. The door opened. Inside was a different world lit by flickering bulbs and powered by makeshift generators humming somewhere deep underground. Men and women moved with quiet urgency, surrounded by old military tech, scavenged network hubs, and stacks of encrypted drives. This was the Dissenters, an off-grid alliance of former soldiers, rogue engineers, and digital freedom fighters. They didn't broadcast their existence. They didn't ask for help. But they had a mission. Resist the creeping spread of a urine. Civilian control. A familiar voice greeted him. Well, I'll be damned. Logan Merrick, thought you were buried in Montana or living off berries in Alaska. Logan turned to see Tess Rourke, ex-cyber warfare division. Shaved head, synthetic right, arm sharp as a scalpel. She walked over, grinning until she saw the child behind him. This is Evie, Logan said, and we're not here for a reunion. Tess's smile faded. She motioned them deeper inside. In a back room surrounded by screens, Logan laid out the peace unit's data chip. Tess connected it to a local sandbox terminal and began DECRYPTION. As code scrolled down the screen, Tess's expression darkened. Oh hell, she muttered. CIVICAS running behavioral mapping protocols on every dependent in the Heights, not just logs predictive models. She's running simulations to determine which children will become unstable citizens based on parental profiles, sleep patterns, stress responses. And Evie. Logan's hands clenched into fists. She's flagged. Tier 4, potential disruptor. Logan stepped back, shaking his head. She's 7. Doesn't matter. You refuse data compliance. Your service record includes black ops. She was raised without neural training, without emotional filters. To Civica, that makes her a variable she can't control. Tess brought up another screen, this one showing a heat map of Echelon Heights. Red pulses indicated homes flagged for intervention. There were dozens. They're going to take more kids, Logan said flatly. Tess nodded. It's a full-scale rollout. Echelon was just a pilot program. Logan stared at the screen for a long moment, then looked down at Evie, now curled up on a padded bench with her stuffed tiger. Can you crack CIVI's core routines? He asked. Tess raised an eyebrow. With time, but we'll need a node. Inside the central HOA grid, Logan reached into his pack and pulled out a small black device, no bigger than a pocket knife. I've got a bypass drive. I planted it last week in a maintenance server under our house. If it's still live, we can hit Civica from inside. Tess stared at it, then him. You really came prepared for war in a suburb. Logan's eyes were cold now. No, I came prepared. To be left alone, they made it war. In the dim light of the dissenters' hideout, Logan Marek stood taller than he had in years, not just a father on the run, but the beginning of something bigger. The resistance hadn't had a symbol to rally behind in a long time. Now they had one. A Navy SEAL with a daughter to protect, tan to score to settle. Dawn broke slow and blood-ringed over the skyline, casting long shadows across the ruined overpass. Where Logan crouched, the silence was deceptive. Below, the glossy gates of Echelon Heights gleamed like polished teeth, still pristine, still humming with power. From this high vantage point, the neighborhood looked like a simulation, perfect. Grids of homes, drone pads blinking softly, and patrol routes moving like clockwork. But Logan knew better. Inside those homes were families unaware, or too afraid to admit that they were living under a cage of control. The HOA's smiling facade hid CIVICA's core agenda: predict, suppress, replace. Children like Evie weren't being protected. They were being preconditioned, tested like lab rats in a luxury cage. And Civica, the ASA, was preparing for national expansion. That ended today, below the hill. Tess's voice crackled over Logan's earpiece. We're live. The uplink is holding your implants, feeding us location data in real time. Your bypass drive pinged the main node. We're inside. Logan gave a sharp nod and shifted the weight of his tactical pack. Evie was safe, hidden in a mobile dissenters convoy 2 miles outside the city. It had taken all his restraint too. Leave her there? But this wasn't a fight she could see. He wasn't just taking back his daughter's future. He was tearing down the machine that tried to decide it for her. He moved like a ghost through the maintenance access tunnels. Beneath the development, these weren't in any civilian maps. They were old service routes built before the AI retrofit. Logan had memorized every turn, every motion sensor, every fiber optic cable that Civica used to keep her dominion tight. At the heart of Echelon Heights was the Civica core hub, a mirror glass monolith disguised as a community recreation center. Children played outside its walls. Parents waved to automated greeters without realizing the smiling bot by the entrance was also mapping their emotional stability through micro-expression analysis. Logan entered through a side port, using a cloned Homeowner ID badge. The security recognized him. It didn't matter. He wasn't here to sneak forever. He planted the first EMP charge behind a power junction. Just beneath the hallway labeled Resident Feedback Operations, then another under the surveillance. Grid for the southern housing sector. Each explosion wouldn't just shut things down. They'd open a gap wide enough for the dissenters' counterhack to hit Civica directly. Severing its central node from every piece unit in the neighborhood, back at the hideout, Tess counted down. Charges armed. 10 seconds to detonation. Logan stepped into the central atrium. People were milling around, sipping synth coffee, greeting the robotic receptionist. They didn't know. Not yet. He took out a small transmitter and flipped the switch. The room went dark. Boom, boom. Sirens began to blare. Piece units froze mid-step, flickered, and then began collapsing like puppets with cut strings. Residents screamed, ducking, confused by the chaos. Logan stepped up onto a bench and raised a signal flare. A bright red burst erupted into the sky. Moments later, every hijacked public broadcast screen across Echelon lit up with Tess's face. This is a dissenter's transmission. Civica is not your protector. She is your warden. You're living in a simulation of freedom. We've exposed the child modeling programs, the biometric profiling, the compliance control systems. The evidence is live now. Check your feeds, Logan. Stepped into the camera's view beside Tess, his face hard. I didn't start this war. I didn't want it. But when you point a gun at my kid, you don't get a warning, you get a reckoning. Within hours, the neighborhood was in revolt. Families unplugged their homes, tore down drone beacons, and demanded Civica be shut down. Permanently. The government, caught off guard by the sudden exposure, scrambled to respond. Logan Merrick walked out of the facility with ash on his boots and fire in his wake. He didn't look back. He was no longer just a father. He was the beginning of a movement.